The two-time Oscar winner discussed the length of her career with Lee Cowan, a truly remarkable aspect of my life. That, is very entwined with everything I do as a mother. Jodie Foster stunned the world at age 62. The kid star who rose to fame in Hollywood now has a totally different appearance. She disappeared from film after taking home 2 Oscars before turning 30. Last year, when she reappeared, cameras captured something that no one had anticipated. Foster made a contentious decision regarding her appearance, in contrast to other elderly celebrities. Industry insiders were taken aback. She is unlike other celebrities, as seen by her metamorphosis. On November 19, 1962, Jodie Foster was born in Los Angeles. The entire world was holding its breath when she was born, barely a few weeks after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Before Jodie was even born, her husband left, leaving her mother, Evelyn Brandy Foster, to raise her 4 children by herself. Despite their meager household, Brandy made sure her kids had something more valuable than cash: strong voices, sharp minds, and space for development. The youngest, Jodie, was unique from the beginning. Jod was more than a mere chatterbox at 9 months of age. She was using complete phrases and worries. Physicians were so taken aback that they wrote about it in publications. By the age of 2, she was able to memorize every word from a single commercial. She taught herself to read at the age of 3. Just curiosity, no training, no flashcards. By the age of 4, she was acting out literary scenes and reading novels from the 3rd grade. Her IQ was assessed at age 5, 132, exceptionally talented. She was not merely intelligent, she was also emotionally astute and self-aware. When she arbitrated their arguments, even her elder siblings paid attention. However, how did she end up as Jodie? Although Alicia Christian Foster was her real name, it never truly stayed. Her siblings began referring to her as Jodie at the age of 3 months after a family friend named Jodie Glovin. Her entire life was dominated by that moniker. It seemed so straightforward and original that even casting directors liked it. She didn't know Elysia was her legal name until she was 6 years old and viewed her birth certificate. She was somewhat startled by the experience. The world already knew her as Jodie. At the age of 3, everything changed. She was seen in a playground by a talent scout, just a child who could hit her marks, speak effectively, and remain composed under pressure. No agency, no training. Jod stood out among the 63 children trying out for a Coppertone commercial. It was a classic ad. As the narrator stated, Coppertone protects a dog tugged at her swimsuit. Her career took off after that. She recorded 27 ads for Mattel, McDonald's, and other companies over the course of the following 18 months. She was making more money than her mother at the age of 4. To handle everything, a trust fund had to be established. Then she landed her first TV show acting part. She was 5 years old. She portrayed Gloria in the Mayberry RFD television series. More than 200 children tried out. Jodie was chosen because she was genuine, not because she was ostentatious. Not only did she know her lines, but she had the entire screenplay committed to memory when she arrived each day. She had 8 acting credits by the time she turned 6. She began getting calls for more parts from Norman Lear, one of Hollywood's greatest producers. Jodie Foster has been on more than 50 TV series by the age of 13. Playing Joey Kelly on The Courtship of Eddie's Father was her big break. She performed with veterans who were so impressed that they asked for more lines from writers. Despite having a fever of 103 degrees Fahrenheit, she continued to film The Partridge Family without missing a single scene. Everyone was astounded by her professionalism. She received $9,000 for one appearance on The Bob Newhart Show. Today, that amounts to almost $50,000 for a single episode. Then the accident happened. She was attacked by Major, a trained lion, on the set of Napoleon and Samantha in 1972. He gnawed at her thighs, sides, and back. Her organs were just missed. Like a toy, she was flipped in midair. A trainer had to intervene and was also hurt. Disney continued to shoot. After barely 3 days, she returned to set scared and bandaged, but determined. Despite months of speech treatment and years of nightmares, she managed to finish the movie. Her performance was praised by critics for its exceptional elegance. Because of her, new regulations protecting children who work with animals were later passed. She then performed in a musical called Tom Sawyer, which no one had anticipated. She portrayed Becky Thatcher in 1973. More than 1,200 girls tried out. She understood. Despite having no professional training, she sang 7 songs. According to a well-known composer, he had never witnessed a child pick up music so quickly. Despite breaking her wrist during a stunt, she continued. Due to numerous takes, she performed her own choreography, danced in filthy rivers, and donned 17 identical costumes. She was likened by critics to Shirley Temple, but with more skill. Then a major event occurred. A recording of her Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Audition was seen by Martin Scorsese in 1974. Her reading astounded him. He had seen 71 girls. She was dubbed a phenomenon by him. To ensure she wouldn't miss school, he even changed his filming schedule. She worked like an adult on set. She was sought for acting instruction by actress Ellen Mirren. Jodie improvised 7 lines in one pivotal scene. Scorsese retained all of them. He allowed her to watch the video with him, something that is often reserved for the main actors. She was nominated by the New York Film Critics Circle for that performance. Jodie had an elderly soul in a child's body, according to Pauline Kael. Taxi Driver was a direct result of that position. She portrayed 12-year-old sex worker Iris Steinma. It was among the most contentious positions a youngster had ever been assigned. Foster had to endure a 4-hour psychological examination with a UCLA physician before she could even accept the role. Proof that she was stable enough to handle such ominous material was required by the California Labor Board. She was never alone on set. There was usually a social worker around. Additionally, her older sister Connie served as a body double for the most gruesome moments. Foster was unfazed by the job, though. According to her, it was the first time she had the opportunity to develop a character that wasn't merely a reflection of herself. She wasn't really disturbed by the adult themes or the violence. The clothing was the cause. She detested the platform shoes, the halter tops, and the little shorts. She later remarked, "I had to wear those stupid costumes, and I was sniffing back tears." She was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in spite of everything. She had more films to her credit by the end of production than Martin Scorsese, the film's 32-year-old director. Foster didn't stop there either. In Bugsy Malone that same year, she made the leap from realistic grit to sheer fantasy. She wasn't a homeless youngster this time. She was Tula, a young gangster's glitzy singer sweetheart. The characters employed whipped cream extravaganza weapons in place of bullets, and the entire cast was composed of youngsters. Nothing about it seemed serious, even though it took place in the 1920s. Foster displayed a whole different side of herself while dancing and singing. The movie became a cult classic by pairing her with a biography of a young Scot. It demonstrated that Foster was more than just a theatrical performer. She was also capable of weird, melodic, and fun. Next was Disney's popular comedy Freaky Friday, which tells the story of a teenager who switches bodies with her mother. Foster portrayed Annabelle, a typical teenager who must abruptly face adulthood. Filmed the previous year, the film was a tremendous box office hit when it was released in January 1977. On a budget of $5 million, it made $36 million. Foster was doing something quite different once more. As a mom stuck within an adolescent's body, and as a teen herself, she was hilarious, lighthearted, and completely convincing. She and her co-star, Barbara Harris, were nominated for Golden Globes for their performances. Because of the film's popularity, studios realized Foster could handle both edgy and major commercial parts with equal ease. It restored her reputation following Taxi Driver and provided her to much more diversity. Her greatest obstacle, however, was yet to come. She played the role of 13-year-old Ren Jacobs in The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, a character who lives alone and conceals sinister secrets. It was her most responsible role to date. The movie was dramatic, gloomy, and silent. Almost every scene had to be carried by her alone. Martin Sheen, who co-starred with her, as a terrifying predator who pursued her. There was criticism over one moment in particular. The producers insisted on include a naked shot. Foster declined. Connie, her sister, took over as a body duplicate once more. Critics praised her performance, but years later, Foster claimed she never quite accepted the movie because of that one decision. The film won Best Horror Film, and she received a Saturn Award for Best Actress. Reviewers commended her for managing such upsetting material with depth and restraint, saying the entire picture was about her. Jodie Foster, then 14 years old, did not just follow the Hollywood route after her breakthrough year in 1976. In 1977, she relocated to France and stayed there for 9 months. She was working, not just visiting. She played a teenage girl named Isabelle in the French movie Moi Fleur Bleu. She did more than just act, though. She also recorded music for the movie. The story's serious topics were addressed in the English title, Stop Calling Me Baby. She made an appearance in the Italian comedy Casoto that same year. C. Prodi and Ugo Tonazzi were among its well-known figures. Later, that movie was screened as part of an homage to Italian comedy at the Venice Film Festival. Jodie began working on worldwide projects in foreign languages at the age of 15. She continued to work in Hollywood, doing Candle Shoe for Disney in 1977, even though the majority of young actors were still doing sitcoms back home. The Heist movie was filmed in England. Legends like Helen Hayes and David Nan co-starred with her. A teenager named Casey attempts to rob a generous woman posing as her long-lost grandmother in the novel. Casey sobs for the first time in her life in one of the most moving scenes in the movie. Bee-wee. This wasn't your average Disney movie, according to critics. It was quite profound. It proved Jodie was capable of more than merely projecting toughness. She was also capable of displaying guilt and heartbreak. She was already demonstrating that she could have a significant emotional impact on film at the age of 15. Jodie was 18 when Fox's was released in 1980. It was not a family movie. It was honest and unvarnished. She portrayed a teenager attempting to protect a friend from drug and abuse while juggling a problematic mother. Sheree Curry, a real-life rock star from The Runaways, was her co-star. Nothing in the film was sugar-coated. It depicted the unpleasant, unsightly aspects of maturing. Because it concentrated on the genuine lives of young girls, critics referred to it as daring, honest, and even girly in the best sense. It was a watershed moment. Child roles were over for her. This was the beginning of her adult storytelling career. However, something horrifying started that same year. After seeing Taxi Driver over 15 times, a man called John Hinckley Jr. developed an obsession with Jodie. He began phoning her Yale dorm and writing her notes. To be close to her, he even relocated to New Haven and enrolled in a writing course there. He attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan on March 30, 1981. He shot 3 people, including the president. His motivation was to win Jodie over. Her name was in every headline worldwide, even though she had nothing to do with anything. Even though she was just 18, she now needed bodyguards to attend classes. She was drawn into the trauma even if it wasn't hers. That was just the beginning of the nightmare. Other stalkers were present. After seeing her perform in a school play, one man confessed that he had considered killing her but later changed his mind. Jodie said nothing about it. She seldom ever mentioned Hinckley. She wrote an article titled, "Why Me?" in 1982, only if the magazine adhered to rigorous guidelines. No advertisements, no publicity, no pictures. She did not want to become a tabloid. She just wanted to be heard. She disclosed in the article that she received 73 letters from Hinckley, one of which was written just hours prior to the shooting. She claimed that she felt more like a symbol than a real person. She wouldn't even type the essay. To prevent duplicates from leaking, she wrote it by hand. It was never reprinted by the publication. In the meanwhile, Yale life was like being watched closely. On her dorm, 4 FBI agents lived on shift rotation. The glass in her room was bulletproof. Federal agents were directly attached to her phone. Before she entered, teachers looked around the classrooms. She maintained a 3. That year, I acted in 3 films and had an 8 GPA. For her, the institution prohibited all forms of media from being on campus. Students were warned that speaking to the media might result in their expulsion. At college, it was similar to witness protection. She later claimed that during her freshman year, she made 17 attempts to resign, but she persisted. Jodie graduated magna cum laude in 1985. Her thesis took only 11 weeks to write and was 167 pages long. She did it while in Paris filming a movie. Her final GPA was 3.96. During her tenure at Yale, she shot 7 films and earned 163 credits, 43 more than she needed. She had survived 3 additional assassination attempts while studying, including one in 1984 that was planned just 2 days before it was scheduled to occur, according to FBI archives. Suye to occur. She frequently only shot movies on the weekends and during breaks from school. She even learned German and French on her own. She never missed a class during her last year, which consisted of 24 credits every semester. However, her Hollywood career was not waiting for her when she left school, though. She tried out for 63 parts between 1985 and 1987. She received 2 offers. They were both victims of slasher movies. According to a Variety poll, she is box office poison. A Yale graduate who had once been a child star left the studios unsure of what to do. She put 3 of her completed films on hold. Her savings had dropped to less than $13,000 by 1987. Out of a $4.03 million budget, one of her projects only made $320,000. In just 7 theaters, another opened. She started attending 3 weekly treatment sessions. In order to resume her career in France, she nearly departed the United States. The Accused then appeared. For 7 months, director Jonathan Kaplan campaigned for her. He disregarded the studio notes that said she was unbankable. Her career was saved. Steve. In The Accused, she portrayed Sarah Tobias, a rape survivor who wasn't presented as flawless or innocent. Sarah had a harsh exterior. She smoked, drank, and wore short skirts. However, that was the main objective. The movie aimed to refute the notion that only flawless victims are deserving of justice. Although the film's graphic gang attack sequence was difficult to see, Foster's performance ensured that viewers couldn't take their eyes off it. She simultaneously displayed power, anguish, and wrath. It was more than a role. There was a message. That message struck a deep chord. Jodie Foster approached the Oscars stage on March 29, 1989, and accepted the Best Actress prize. She was just 26. She became one of the youngest winners in that category as a result. Acting wasn't the only factor in the victory. It has to do with her values, a movie about sexual assault. Fault. She gave life to a dysfunctional system and a complex lady. She also became one of the few actors to win the Triple Crown, Oscar, Golden Globe, and BAFTA for the same performance that same night. The moment she permanently shed the child star moniker was a watershed in her career. She established her own production firm, Egg Pictures, 2 years later. She wanted greater authority over the types of stories being told as well as over the actions she took. Tales of women such as Sarah Tobias. Nell, a film about a lady who was raised in complete solitude, was the company's first major project. Jodie threw herself into it rather than merely staring at it. She was also nominated for another Oscar for her performance. However, things became more difficult by the early 2000s. So, a few projects failed. The business closed. Nevertheless, it was a daring step, particularly in a Hollywood setting where men held the majority of the production authority. Foster didn't accept simple roles after The Accused. She participated in The Silence of the Lambs in 1991. She was Clarice Starling this time, a new FBI agent attempting to apprehend a serial killer. Not in the typical sense of the word. She didn't use fists to fight. She was unique because she applied her intellect. Unbleckelstal, Jodie tried to purchase the book's rights before anyone else did since she was so desperate for the part. Producers took over and made it happen after the director refused to cast her. With about $273 million in revenue, the movie was a huge success. Suddenly, she was awarded her second Oscar, Avouin la Peau. That part nearly didn't come to pass. Clarice was offered to Michelle Pfeiffer first, but she declined. That did not deter Foster. She made 17 calls to the director. Then, in an attempt to understand Clarice's thoughts, she trained at the FBI Academy, fired actual firearms, and studied profiling. Her scenes with Anthony Hopkins were memorable despite their little 227-second on-screen time together. One scene received 8,000 complaints because it was so frightening. However, the film touched a nerve. It also influenced women in real life. According to more than 24 female FBI recruits, Clarice Starling forced them to enlist. Clarice was later dubbed the best female hero in film history by AFI. Foster received her second Oscar on March 30, 1992. Her age was just 29 years and 4 months. This makes her the fourth Oscar-winning actor before her 30th birthday, fourth day. So she also won both in less than 3 years, which is one of the quickest back-to-back Best Actress awards ever. But that night, something strange occurred. She was clutching her Oscar when some of the gold fell off. It made no difference. She was suddenly the most paid actress in Hollywood, earning $7 million a film. Few recalled that she began marketing copper-toned sunscreen on television at the age of 3. Fewer people are aware that she nearly declined Silence of the Lambs because she was worn out and didn't want to be the victim again. She made headlines in 1991 for an off-screen incident. She was scheduled to appear on the Today Show live. She canceled just 37 minutes prior to airing. In order to impress her, the show was going to bring up John Hinckley Jr., the man who attempted to assassinate President Reagan. She had requested that they not mention him. They disregarded that. So she went for a walk. People were unaware of the extent of that wound. She received 41 death threats following the shooting. Her dorm room at Yale had to be guarded by FBI officers. She declined more than 273 interviews mentioning Hinckley between 1981 and 1991. When she challenged the Today Show, NBC lost about $135,000 money. She didn't care, though. It was evident from her team's public declaration that her suffering was not for sale. She took a behind-the-camera look that same year. Her debut as a director was Little Man Tate. In reality, it was about her, but it was about a male genius. Linda T. Foster had a 162 IQ at age 9, had read at age 2, and had spoken French at age 7. She had matured too quickly, just like the boy in the film. However, no studio was interested in giving her a chance. She had 18 rejections. According to some executives, commercial films are not directed by women. She was not deterred by that. In an attempt to capture genuine emotion, she secretly recorded the kid actor's emotions on camera. She frequently hid in her trailer in between takes because she was afraid of failing. However, it was successful. About the US, the film brought about $25 million, 3 times the 1991 average for films directed by women. Then, in 1994, Foster went all out to portray a lady who had been raised in seclusion in Nell. For 23 days, she lived alone in the Highlands. No technology, no phone. She talked exclusively Nellish, a language she created from 127 fictitious words. She shed 18 pounds, wore fake teeth, and applied cosmetics for 4 hours every day. She became hypothermic in a lake setting where the water was 36 degrees Fahrenheit. She declined a body double, though. She remained in character for 89 hours in a row at one point. She learned to play with her toes and performed 37 takes for a single 42-second piano scene. Doctors and psychologists hailed her performance as the most accurate ever seen on screen, despite the fact that she did not win the Oscar. Later, Foster claimed that the part transformed her. It was difficult to resume a normal life after living as Nell. On the set of Summersby in 1993, Jodie Foster got to know Sidney Bernard. Sidney coordinated the production. The star was Jodie. Nobody realized it at the time, but that silent moment marked the beginning of a 14-year romance. They never announced anything in public. They avoided the reporters instead. They would arrive separately at gatherings. To avoid being spotted together, they made use of kitchen doors, service elevators, and anything else. Even Jod's close friends were unaware of the truth for the first 5 years. They spent $10 of their $5 million on a Beverly Hills compound in 2005. It cost $275,000 to install and featured high-level security and 15-foot privacy barriers. Strict contracts have to be signed by their employees. A $2 million fine was imposed on anyone who disclosed information. And Sidney attended all 7 of Jod's movie premieres between 1997 and 2007, so she was there for all the important events. The public, however, never saw them together, not even in a single picture. In 1998, Jod became a mother. Her age was 35. Charlie, her first son, was created via in vitro fertilization. In 2001, Kit, her second son, was born. She went to clinics under fictitious names. To keep the procedure confidential, she took a plane between California and New York. She claimed that the expanse of space inspired her to build her own cosmos after filming Contact. That required having children. To manage photo rights at her children's schools, she spent about $175,000 annually. In this manner, photographers would not be able to enter. The identity of the biological father is still unknown. Randy Stone, a personal friend, is one of the guests. "My children will know when they're ready, not when the public demands it," Jod once remarked. Jod's privacy was strategic as well as personal. She appeared in 11 major motion pictures between 1995 and 2013, yet she only participated in 14 in-person interviews. According to her publicist, Jod employed 3 different PR teams. Nobody was aware of her entire schedule. It was impossible to follow her because of this. She even employed a technique known as the Foster method. It meant concealing what really important and providing the press with brief personal anecdotes to keep them happy. People magazine published an article about her personal life in 2007. The house wasn't hers, though. They rented it. The furniture was borrowed as well. From 1998 until 2013, she had 17 distinct email addresses. She was always changing them. In 2004, she employed 7 shell corporations across 3 countries to purchase a beach property in Malibu. For almost 5 years, her neighbors were unaware that she resided there. Then came the 2013 Golden Globes. The Cecile B. Deal Award went to Jodie. She spoke for 7 minutes. It was 2738 words long. In order to complete on time, she spoke 30% faster than normal. There were around 20 million viewers. 47,000 tweets were sent in a minute. She revealed to the world that she had come out in the Stone Age, a millennium ago. In 215 university courses, the remark, "Privacy is something I need to survive," was used. 4 attempts were made by network staff to obtain her speech beforehand. She declined. The handwritten copy she carried in her purse. Jod married Alexandra Hetz in April 2014. In 2013, the two met at a technology conference. Alexandra is an actress and photographer. Before anyone took a picture of them, they dated for about 10 months. Their wedding was more than one occasion. Over 8 days, there were 3 ceremonies. There were stringent guest rules for each. Cell phones were prohibited. Agreements were signed by the guests. Malibu hosted the main ceremony on April 20. There were only 27 attendees. In addition, there was a surprising Hollywood turn. Years before, Alexandra had dated Ellen DeGeneres. Jodie was now her spouse. In order to maintain visibility and avoid causing disruption, the two decided to only make 4 public appearances annually. Jod referred to Alexandra as "my wife" when she accepted the Golden Globe in 2020-21. It was compact but strong, a significant departure from previous concealment. They currently split their time between a $3.05 million apartment in Manhattan and an $11.75 million property in Beverly Hills. Photographs by Alexandra address concepts such as presence and invisibility. The Annette Ween was the title of her 2019 exhibit. Half in the light, half in the dark is a good metaphor for life with Jodie. Jod has not performed as frequently since 2014. In a decade, she only produced 5 pictures. "Acting never felt like my purpose," she remarked. When she was 3 years old, she fell into it. She now chooses important roles, She starred in The Mauritanian in 2021. It recounted the actual events of a man who was held for 14 years without a trial in Guantanamo Bay. She acted as his attorney. She requested that the writers remove the portions that made her character more dramatic in order to appeal to a star. She wanted the narrative to take center stage, not her. She won a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress for that decision. She received the honorary Palme d'Or from Cannes in July 2021. She was ranked 58th. It was among the greatest accolades in film. When she was 13 years old, she worked as a taxi driver at Cannes for the first time in 1976. According to her, the festival transformed her life. It now paid tribute to her legacy. Jod and Neode made a comeback to the Oscars in 2011. She portrayed swimmer Diana Need's instructor and friend, Bonnie Stoll. Jod trained hard to become ready. Kettlebells, weights, and a complete physical makeover. The directors were taken aback. She kept her actions a secret from them. She simply arrived prepared and strong. The genuine Bonnie described her as charming and claimed that they hit it off right away. Jod was nominated for her fifth Oscar. At the age of 14, the first had occurred. This time, Jod stood not only as a celebrity, but also as someone who had created her own universe and life according to her own rules.